Hi everyone. We're just waiting for Claudia Cano to join us. Thank you for tuning in to our second Charla. Hi everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is the second Charla of five on the occasion of To Tame a Wild Tongue. Hi everyone. Hello. Hi everyone. We're just waiting for Claudia to join us in just a second. Hi everyone. Hi Claudia.
Morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you doing?
Fine. A little bit, humid today.
It's a little hot, I know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining me. I will kind of give an overview. So as I've kind of said earlier to a couple of early viewers, this charla is on the occasion of To Tame a Wild Tongue, Art After Chicanismo. And so this is our now online exhibition. So we're super thrilled to have that on mcasd.digital. And so today, I guess before I get started, I should acknowledge that from my office here in Sherman Heights, San Diego, I am on the traditional territory of the Kumeyaay. Go ahead.
I also would like to take a moment to acknowledge that from my current location in La Jolla, I am on the traditional territory of the Kumeyaay.
Great. So like I said, this Charla is on the occasion of To Tame a Wild Tongue. And so this exhibition is really looking at the 80s through today. And it's taking the Chicano art movement from the 60s and 70s as a point of departure, right? But the importance of this exhibition is really looking at the place particularity of San Diego and our trans-border region. And so the exhibition is divided into 5 thematic sections. So the first, activism, labor, Rosquache, Domesticana, and the border. And so I'm thrilled to have Claudia here. With her work is in the Domesticana section. And so to give a brief definition, right, Domesticana is the feminist reworking of Rosquache. Rosquache is the underdog aesthetic that has been cultivated by Latinx and Chicanx communities. And it really is this kind of subversive vernacular that has been part of the art that comes out for that community. So Domesticana is then the feminist reworking of what that means. So attention to the familial world, to domestic labor, and what that means. And so let me read a quick bio for you, Claudia, and then we'll get into what your work is in this section. So working in photography, film, and performance, San Diego-based Claudia Cano explores issues of labor, gender, and inequality, focusing on the home and labor associated with the domestic sphere. Cano brings visibility to the often invisible Latinx workforce. So what's in the section, which I have a beautiful image here, is this documentary photograph of Rosa Hernandez. So we can talk a little bit about the inception of Rosa, but this is what the work would have been in the gallery. So it's this documentary photograph alongside a broom and pail. So if you want to talk a little bit about Rosa, right? Because I know Claudia, as I just mentioned, is a performance artist, and you've kind of moved through different characters, and Rosa Hernandez is one of them. So if you want to talk about how you came upon Rosa and how she was born.
Well, thank you, Lana, for inviting me today. This is an honor for me to talk about my work and to talk about Rosa and to have the possibilities of, sharing my experience as an immigrant living here. And Rosa was born along with other characters that I was experimenting. I moved for personal reasons to the US, to San Diego. And while I was a professor in Mexico and moving here, I deal with issues of identity, language barrier, job opportunities, and so on and so forth. And I would like to read a quote from Coco Fusco that I actually included in my thesis, and which leads to how my identity was changed or transformed. In Mexico, I was only a photographer, and obviously I stumbled upon art, and I decided to make sense out of the clashes between cultures that cause so much of us trouble and pain. But I chose to do so within the realm of art. I stumbled upon performance, and I decided to experiment and to kind of navigate ideas of theatrical stage and creating this alter egos stereotype. And obviously, Rosa is very close to me
Right.
till today. You know, it's the character that is most known and the one that has been performing since 2012.
Right. Yeah. So Rosa has a very specific costuming, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if you want to talk about the costuming. And I know as part of Rosa, which I think is really fascinating, is that there is a series of kind of rules, right? Rosa prays before she goes to work. She only speaks in Spanish. If people speak to her, she gives a business card, right? So it's curious to me how you've kind of cultivated this kind of ritual around what Rosa can and cannot do. But then certainly I think also this costuming of Rosa in this like very pink dress, right, with this apron and something that is easily identifiable, I guess, in that way.
Well, wearing that costume is a symbol of colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
Costume is very traditional for cleaning ladies, or as they're called, maids in Mexico till this day, till today, and including in many parts of this country. They use in hotels, they use this uniform. So in a way, it's paying attention to the historical colonialism that we've been living in, and it's still ongoing. The long ponytail is also rooted to her agriculture background, and the scapular that she wears also, it's notions of her religious background. So there are aspects, each one of the aspects of her character they have been built through the years. And for instance, the scapular changes, the tennis shoes, they've been like changed over time since they were out. So having these ideas of creating a ritual prior, it's also part of my background and my culture, going through the notions of becoming someone else. When people talk about Rosa and they talk about her and they ask me about her, she's a different person. She's a different character. She lives in me for all the years I've been performing, but pretty much she's her own persona. And she doesn't speak English whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really fascinating. So have you I know Rosa has performed for us at the museum before, right? So she has been at the museum before. And have you encountered when people have come up to you to speak to you as Rosa, and how does that work? Or how does that feel for you?
Well, it's very interesting. Rosa doesn't speak to one unless she's asked. She silence, talking about to tame a wild tongue and talking about notions of silence and the role of Latinas and the mestiza, the notions of mestiza being, perpetuated in our role as women. She doesn't speak. She's silenced. She's obedient, and she only listens. And that's where I, as an artist, can take notes. I can just hear about them, but never ever cross that line. Never breaking character, never engage with any experience. It's only silence, which is important to mention. That talking about not breaking character, it is always interesting to see how people kind of communicate with her or try to interact with Rosa. And obviously there's no way to break character, and there's no way to change the dialogue unless is Rosa. And well, the experience being at the museum at an opening, and that is one of the many other openings that Rosa has been invited to. There's a process of inviting Rosa to be part of the openings or the events. There's a contract before. I'm her manager. I represent her. She doesn't have any ways of communicating. Obviously, those are the rules, right? Obviously, she has a business card with no contact information to kind of reiterate notions of invisibility there to communicate with her, right? And every time she's cleaning, she's performing, the performance is completely different. It never is repeated. Only her character, which is part of the root performance.
Right. And I think we've spoken about this before, but then also I think Rosa's inclusion within the museum, right, as this brown woman inside of the museum, and it obviously brings up notions about who is able to be in the museum, who is able to come to the museum, who is featured here, and I think that is something I know that you had a lot of thoughts on, and that we've discussed at length, right? And
Yeah,
so, wonder if you would like to share a little bit.
yeah, we were actually we talked about why and how it started. My interest in performing and studying performance, I stumbled upon not having any role models or any other Latinas or brown or artists of color to perform, to study, unless it's Coco Fusco, Guillermo Gomez Peña, Carmen Miranda. But other than that, my age, obviously, it's different now. And I'm very proud of saying it and seeing more and more up and coming performance artists. And we know, there are very important names now. But when I started just investigating, I couldn't find anyone to study. So my character is based on two famous performance artists, or one is a photographer, Cindy Sherman, with some of the photographs, the stills that she has, and also Eleanor Antin with her performance, the Kingdoms of Solana Beach, trying to have conversations on the streets. So Rosa was born on, performing in open spaces. Little by little, was invited to be part of this, the white space, which I call, where in very few occasions you see brown bodies or brown visitors or art in the gallery. So it's interesting to me to draw attention to that presence of brown artists, as well as performance, as well as women in white spaces. We see them cleaning the space, we see them in buildings, but not exactly participating in the art world.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. So you happened upon like Eleanor Antin and Cindy Sherman because you were an educator too at the museum, and so this is part of your education of seeing these women on the walls, right, every day or in whatever form. And I think it's interesting that you're looking back towards, like, you've came across these women on the museum gallery walls, and you're like, wait, hold on, like what else is there? And I think it's helpful in thinking of like that's how you conceived Rosa in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Rosa and Carmencha, the rich lady, and the gardener and the cook, and other characters that I still write and I'm building on, the curandera. So having this idea of occupying a white space, a museum, it is important, but also it's important to bring Rosa to open space, which I started doing. There's the first performance that I created was by the border, where she was documented by me at the beginning of my work, because performance is very complex, and to be credible you have to document, which is what we're seeing right now. It's not the actual performance, it's the aftermath of the performance that also is important to mention. So yeah, having the opportunity to be in open spaces, which she still does, and performing in white spaces or enclosed spaces, which are a safe space to navigate for artists, performance artists. It's important. I'm combining both.
Yeah, that's helpful. I think even so, I have another image of you performing at the museum. Something else we spoke about was that Rosa now means something a little bit different, right? In the age of COVID, you think of what Rosa does and housekeepers today and continuing to work, right, in this kind of dynamic situation. So I know you also had a lot of thoughts about COVID, and I think it's really, but I think it's super poignant, right? We're now in this dynamic stage. The world is changing, and yet and this invisible labor force that we've talked about before is continuing to work, right? And what does that mean to our society, right? This informal economy, and yet this is what keeps us moving in many ways.
Yeah, and also, having those questions again, where are, how are they doing? Are they safe? Do they have a safe space to be at? Do they have, income to bring? I know that in many households, they stop hiring them for fear of bringing the virus into their homes without any cushion, economical cushion. Or, and I'm always communicating where from Mexico, communicate with Mexican, my Mexican culture and my background. So I know that in other places it's the same. They are let go because of fear of getting sick. So I'm looking at numbers, seeing that 70% of actually in San Diego, 70% of the people being diagnosed are Latinos, and that's a scary, statistic. Latinos and brown and black communities, they are part of the front line. They are part of what keeps us also clean space. We're still seeing them. Still, uh, I'm struggling with how they can bring food to their tables, and also educating their kids. That's also another dynamic that is happening, where they don't have the opportunity to leave uh, work and stay home, so they have to leave their kids at home. And I read an article where child protective services are being called because kids are left alone at home. But if they have to bring, it's a dichotomy of the social structure in this country, where in order to keep a job, you have to leave your kids behind, or leave them unattended while they're taking classes from home. So it's more complex, and I think that it's right now it's accentuated what we're living. It is more this pandemic. It creates more awareness, or I wish we can create more awareness of the social structure and the injustices that we're living. And I think that even though I can perform, I'm planning on doing it, obviously with a safety plan. But this opportunity is important. Labor is one of the aspects that I'm drawing attention. Labor and gender also, and immigration. So they
Yeah,
are in
yeah.
place now.
No, it's a lot. I mean, and I think we had talked on the phone about your recent projects, or you're also thinking, like you were just saying, about performing perhaps in a more, when it's a little bit safer. We don't have images for this, but I know also that you were saying you were thinking about working near the border, raising issues of immigration, of course, labor and gender. But then also, I think what's something pretty interesting is that you work also collaboratively with your son. And we talked about documentation and how important it is, right? The performance is it happens, but like documentation lives on. And I wonder if you want to talk about your collaboration with your son, because I do think it's pretty interesting.
Of course, I'm a happy mother and proud mother. My 3 kids, and they are all involved in the arts. But in this case, Nacho, my son, he's a videographer, and he and I collaborate. He's an artist, and we've been collaborating. The photograph that you're seeing right now, unfortunately, it was not the case. He suffered a tremendous accident, and that was the only time that he has not been able to document the performance. But other than that, he has been part of my ongoing performance with Rosa. He knows how to document. He knows Rosa. Sometimes it's very interesting to see in open spaces, or even in museums, which is the case of the Torrance Art Museum of Art, where people start to ask questions to him, right? Not to me. So he functions the other part that we don't see in performance art. Performance art lives because we document the performance. There is a videographer behind the scenes that is also taking a role and knows where to place the camera without, being invasive. So it's important that we have these conversations. Obviously, when we collaborate, it's not mother and son. It's a serious conversation. We exchange ideas, and we navigate the notions of being, kind of collaborating our own practices. We have videos, we have done so many things together, and he also gets paid, or to mention.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. And I love the idea of collaborating with someone close, but also that has kind of been around for Rosa's inception and knows her so well. And thinking of your other projects that you've been working on, I know COVID, it feels like it's been ages ago, but you had worked on this project, A Sus Órdenes, at Bread and Salt, which I had the pleasure to see, but now it seems like years and years ago, right? And I know you said this was kind of the aftermath of Rosa. So I'm curious if you would like to speak more about this recent project and your research into it, because I know that I'll have images a little bit later on, but you have napkins with statistics, and I think it's interesting in terms of your own research how you're planning to how you plan to disseminate this important information about the workforce.
Thank you, Lana. Well, one of the aspects of the performance, especially Rosa, I care about her, I protect her, I don't like to exploit her. I don't want the art world to exploit her. And it's also an ongoing conversation, like we talk with my friends, artists, we are always talking about Rosa, even though she's not, she's not in the room, she's someplace there. So having this idea on to talk about the aftermath, I had the opportunity to have an installation called A Sus Órdenes and Bread and Salt in the gallery. It's called This Is Not an Exit. So I was invited to kind of, pitch an idea to create something around Rosa, but Rosa cannot be a spectacle. Rosa is her own persona. So those are part of the rules of her character. So I decided to kind of put myself in the name of Rosa to talk about her and to talk about labor and to talk about what is to provide a service. And yeah, part of my practice is a little bit confusing. It's like playing between reality and not. I think that my work deals with the politics of what is in the question, what is art? And in doing that, I created this kind of tacos stand instead of a gap, where we open one of the sides of the wall. We turn it into Thomas de Mello helped to create that installation, also to open the window and to do the shelf. And we created this concept of one of taco stand in a gallery, and it was very interesting to me, since I'm curious to know what is the aftermath of Rosa and what do people think about having a taco stand in an art space. So in doing that, I call it, if you look at the sign, the chalk sign, it says, "This is not a performance, pay accordingly." People that know in the art world, they were expecting to see Rosa, but Rosa wasn't there. It was me having conversations, and obviously it was a performance where I was challenging notions of economy, how people deal with with paying or not a service. I was while doing the performance, I was cooking and talking to people, and obviously I was in that photo. I'm pointing out, just please read the sign. So I had, again, instructions. Performance is quite controlled. We are control freaks, performance artists. So I kind of was indicating to each one of the people or the visitors, please read the sign. And after reading the sign, we started having a conversation. And it was pretty much organic. But at the end, obviously, when they requested, I was cooking every time different salsas, beans, different, Mexican dishes, and I was frescas. And at the end, I had a jar with, like money, and people will have or not the idea of paying. So it was a conversation, and at the same time, it was an action and a provocation, kind of activating notions of labor. And what it sealed the conversation obviously was giving the napkins that you were talking. And on the napkins, I had statistics and I had some research, embedded. The one that you're mentioning, Latinas in the U.S. are typically paid 50 cents for each dollar paid to white, compared to white men, right? Most of the information that I did research, I did it since since grad school, and also from the Center of Economic and Policy Research. So it's more of, okay, how do we seal the conversation? How can I continue making this perishable art, and also, having like a seal or a punchline?
Yeah.
Background is in advertising. So the punchline, it will be just take the napkin and think about it.
Yeah, and a lot of these. So this last one you talked about statistics, but then this one, you obviously have different. And you had I think 3 iterations of napkins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or were there more? Yeah. So I think it's interesting. So everyone kind of had a different take on one. I think informal economies in one way, but then also the wage gap, right? And what that means in terms of our own society. But then certainly about women, right? And what the difference is with brown bodies and brown women specifically, I think in that way.
I think that, yeah, one of them is one of the napkins talks about, what are the what are the most common jobs that women occupy, Latina women occupy between the ages of 25 and 54, which is, kind of at my age. It's
Yeah.
very tough here. And having to find network and friends, it was very difficult for me to find, someone to have a conversation with. And I began questioning, where are they? Where are more Latinas? And, educated Latinas, unfortunately, were very few. And statistically, is 5% of the Latinas accomplish a master's degree in the country, which is very, very few, right? And scholars too, and curators too. And it's very difficult. So I'm having those questions as a privileged, educated woman, of what is to have this new identity, what is to be here. And that's why I'm very drawn to read about it, to do research. And the napkins were an idea of, like bringing attention to labor, to the role that Latina women occupy in this country, and also to see the aftermath when I saw many people trashing putting the trash in the trash can. That was a mind-blowing action, which I liked, thinking about perishable art or trash art in a way that people pretty much don't care, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's all super interesting. So I know when we talked about Rosa and we were talking about A Sus Órdenes, is the second project, is it an ongoing project like Rosa is?
That will be lovely. Obviously, with what we're living, it's hard to see where it's going to go. The future of museums, galleries, and institutions, right? Who will invite? We're talking about a site-specific installation. I have done also other, conversations where I'm teaching salsas. I also honor my background with traditional dishes, and I elevate notions of domesticity to an art level.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a conversation about around domesticana. It's always it's either Rosa as a cleaning lady, but also me as a mother and as a educator, and having these conversations and kind of trying to decolonize notions of food and identity. So it's something that I will always continue doing. I think that they are very close to heart. I'm working right now in a new character. And it's interesting that it came right with the pandemic. I started working in grad school, but now it's more than ever important. You know, I'm doing research with herbs and traditional flowers and plants from Mexico that we still use.
Yeah,
So
that's incredible. And I think your your comment about what happens after COVID and kind of like how museums will function and things like that is like a good question to kind of end on and to ruminate with, right? Because we're so uncertain about how we gather, right? And like what does gathering mean? But certainly there is this kind of underscoring that like while this is like a question about museums and other spaces about how society exists, there's still obviously this these kind of informal economies that still have to exist regardless of our own trepidations of gathering.
yeah.
So I guess a good time for questions. I didn't mention this before, but I see that we have a Q&A. So if anyone has questions, there is a little question box for Q&A on the bottom. It has a little question mark. And so I'm going to put this question up. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Can you speak about your research about the housekeepers in Mexico and the indigenous well, Chris, it got cut off, so I'm sorry. But I guess if if you can speak about your research in Mexico and I guess what I guess it's the same way how you came across housekeepers, and I guess really what the difference is, right? Because
Well, the difference is it's a little bit it's similar and not like kind of we kind of combine them here. It is a cleaning lady that comes and leaves. In Mexico is more likely to live in maid and it's part of the family, but it's not. And they are like treated as family, but not. It's a little bit of like a dichotomy and a little bit contradictory, the way that the cleaning ladies are being perceived. Obviously, the research that I've done is based on my origins and the way that I was raised, and why did we have cleaning ladies, or a maid living in our house, a living maid, and her background. When I was doing all this research in grad school, and I was like having questions about why am I so attached to Rosa, I a memory came to me of my childhood where a Masawa indigenous girl was part of it was part of the family. She was a cleaning lady, and she had to leave her traditional wardrobe in order for her to be living in the household, which is still the same. The Masawan as well as indigenous women in many countries, they immigrate to be part of provide a service, as well as here. We are seeing immigrants, women immigrating, for their safety or economy to work here. So the analogy is pretty much the same, but on this side, the label is being documented or undocumented. In Mexico, is more about race,
yeah.
and social class. So yeah, it's very similar. That's why she wears that uniform. She was born there, and she's now an immigrant here, but she can be living there too, right? And it's the same way.
Yeah, I will say I was living in Guadalajara for about 6 months before this job, and a couple of years ago, and we had a live-in woman that would clean for us, right? Certainly, as someone that was born here in the United States that never had that, I was of course like, oh, please don't do this for me, but it was just part of life, right? That was her house as much as it was my house. And of course I felt like, I'm like, we're roommates, but it wasn't like that at all, right? And it was a jarring thing to first encounter. And so I guess for me, that's like the biggest difference, right? But certainly I think you're right, where color and class is one big thing in Mexico versus here in the United States. It is a conversation about being documented and undocumented, and what that means to have that different conversation. There are for sure similarities, but I think you're absolutely right that that is the big difference between it.
Yeah, one role and the other. And yeah, to add to it, my first job years ago in this country was as a nanny. I
Mm-hmm.
worked as a nanny for a white couple. They were attending one of them. I was taking care of two babies. One was working full time, and the other one was attending college. And one of the questions that stuck with me, one of them, now knowing that it was not ignorance, it was an act of racism, subdued racism. She said, so when she asked me, I was about to visit my family in Mexico, and she asked me, so when you go back to your country, will you change into your traditional wardrobes? To me, it's like, oh, what is that? And I still, I still have that question in my mind. I was like, what does that mean? What did it mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we're talking about, tame racism and
Yep.
subdued racism, which Rosa has been, also part of it. She has heard in her performances comments from people saying, either it's a joke, but it's a bad joke, or maybe it's not. Where I remember one specifically in the Torrance Art Museum where Rosa was mopping the gallery, the entire gallery, and some ladies went to complain about to the front desk. They went to complain about it was a hazard, and the cleaning lady should be doing that. That they were going.
Mm-hmm.
I was, Rosa was putting them at risk. So it's interesting to hear,
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to, I think what's so great about even your Oscars Ordinance performance is that you have these statistics, right? And that's one form of education that
mhm.
people can now, I guess, be informed a little bit more about how others exist within our world.
and
Um,
and I gotta tell you that. Are we on time?
yeah. We have a little bit more time.
That when I was doing that as a sordeness, the stand, I was placed and I was invited to not only openings but also other events by the owners of Bread and Salt, Isabel and James. And it was interesting to see that people continue asking questions like they took me as an informational booth, where is the restroom? Where can I find, are you selling alcohol? Trying to buy food in an event that it was not part of it. Because I was providing a service, I was wearing an apron. And one day I stepped out and went to the restaurant. And when I came back, they confused me by the people that were actually serving and catering. And they thanked me for the food. And I was like, because I was, I'm brown, I was wearing an apron. So those notions of kind of messy performances I'm looking for. I'm interested to know more of human behavior too.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I keep on doing it.
Right. Yeah, that's incredible. Let's see if we have any more questions. I don't think we have any more questions.
Sure.
But if anyone thinks of a question, please feel free to DM the MCASD account. I'm happy to pass it along. A couple of closing tie-ins. Please make sure you follow Claudia Cano on Instagram so you can keep up with her projects. Please follow us on Instagram so you can keep up with our projects. Also, this is like I said, this is the second Charla of a series of 5. Our next Charla will be next month on September 17th at 11 a.m. with Julio Cesar Morales. So please follow us. And thank you, Claudia, so much for your time. This was great.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yeah, oh, of course.
If someone couldn't see it, the one that I want to share, where can they see it later?
Yeah, so this will be on our IGTV right when I log off, so that it'll be saved right there, but then it will also be on our YouTube. And then please do visit mcasd.digital. This is our temporary website where we're putting To Tame a Wild Tongue, where we're putting our conversations like this one. So this will all live online. So please do make sure, if you didn't catch it today, that you see again. Okay, now we do have We do have questions. Okay, we're not done yet. We
Okay.
have a couple more minutes. So, uh, can you talk about the cleaning products research?
Oh, oh well, I have a couple of them. One is related to a statement, like not statement, is a slogan that is called "Limpia tu mierda." You know,
Mm-hmm.
I use
Yeah.
it, right? So it's been an ongoing use of different mediums where I just like apply it. I kind of embroider it. I paint on it, like again, using language, using and kind of embracing the Spanish, which I miss so much. And there's a ongoing artwork that I've been practicing or doing lately, and it's based on the product called Fabuloso, which I
Yeah.
actually, when Rosa performs, she brings in that cleaning product to her performances. So obviously, it's kind of like appropriating the space, symbolically appropriate with a specific smell.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say because it's very olfactory in that way. So your performance is now very yeah. For those of you that haven't used Fabuloso, it's very pungent, and you will know exactly what it is at the very beginning as soon as you smell it.
Yeah, you know that is Fabuloso. So yeah, for instance, Rosa has used it in many of her performances where, the idea of leaving traces of her action, it's there. And yeah, the smell is specific, right? It's
Yeah.
very, and so now it's not only Fabuloso. I tweak the name for Fabulosa, paying an homage to cleaning ladies. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a ongoing art piece that I've been working on, different mediums, and it is growing in me, thinking about how women, not only cleaning ladies, Latinas, work hard to keep their families safe, to keep the idea of family together, and to be hardworking women. Not, there's a sense of brown women being at the bottom of this society where, while other women have the opportunity to go out and work, someone is taking care of their kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the slogan Fabulosa, or phrase Fabulosa.
Yeah. Okay, we have time for one more question. Uh, so this is about the first our work in the collection. So let me go back to the image. I think he meant this bucket. Why blue bucket?
uh it was there at that time. It was the one that was there. Now it has changed actually. The art piece, the piece that it was, it's part of the collection, or the permanent collection. It's dated 2012 when Rosa was born, and the dustpan and the broom are, there's 2012, 2016.
Right.
So related to the existence of the dustpan and the broom.
Okay.
So since Rosa was born, she started, using that dustpan and the same sack broom. So when they were acquired, they were dated.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting, to understand that a museum acquires also a sculptural object that used to be a cleaning product. So now she has different ones. I've been collecting cleaning products, in ever since Rosa cleans. She has that series of objects that every time she cleans in a specific area, she uses a different rag, which is another part of my practice, having conversations with cleaning ladies where I collect cleaning rags from them, and I collect the cleaning rags from Rosa. So it grows, it's an ongoing practice. So
Okay.
the market is just, it was there at that time.
Right.
It
Well,
always is, actually.
right. Well, I think that was a great answer, and I think a great answer to our last question. So I'll just reiterate the blah blahs that I just said. please do go to mcasd.digital to see the exhibition. Please follow Claudia Cano on Instagram. Make sure you're following us on Instagram. And please tune in for our next Charla on the 17th of September. Thank you, Claudia, again so much for your time. This was super lovely. Thank you.
Thank you for everybody that joined us today. Thank you, Alana. Hope to see you one day.
Soon.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.